Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with an American falls to a sniper, showing a recreation of an American that was taken out by a sniper. By a German sniper specifically, obviously. We're now on to The Franklin Survives in Tragedy at Sea. March 19th, 1945. Death toll is heavy. When a Japanese dive bomber dropped two heavy bombs forward and aft on the decks of the USS Franklin, the 27,000-ton carrier burst into a raging inferno. But her valiant crew pulled her through and brought her 12,000 miles to the Brooklyn Navy Yard for repairs. But before the battle was won, 832 of the crew had given their lives and 270 were wounded in the heroic fight against almost impossible odds. Captain Leslie E. Garris said that practically every member of the crew had been a hero. Groups of men were trapped in the flaming compartments below deck, and others were forced to one end of the upper deck by the heat and flames. This picture here. Even the gun turrets burst into flames. In the picture at the lower left, members of the crew, in this circle here, wait to be rescued. And at the right, the Santa Fe comes alongside to assist in the fight. The huge carrier was hit 60 miles off main Japanese islands. So yeah, you can really see the damage that some of these dive bombers do. You know, this ship is huge, and you can just see, like, look at all the smoke and all that. There's not much flames at this point, but you can see the heat. More on that side the flames are, but the heat pushing all these guys all on this side of the deck. Um, you even see the gun turrets and things like that just on fire. Crazy, crazy the amount of damage that happens here. Obviously, a lot of crew is lost, and it makes sense. You know, these ships, when they burst into flames like this, it gets super dangerous, especially if you're trapped in lower compartments and things like that. I mean, it's good that her crew was able to get her basically to a repair yard, but obviously, some of the men can't be taken to a repair yard and brought back. So that's definitely awful. But you can see though, even with all that, this ship managed to hold on, and obviously it had friends to help it. If it didn't, like, it probably wouldn't have survived much longer. But good on her crew for doing the best that they could. The Allies take Mandalay, March 20th, 1945. Cut up Jap groups in central Burma. After almost 3 years of Japanese occupation, Mandalay fell to the British on March 20th. Japanese forces, accounting to perhaps 25,000 troops, were being carved up by Allied 14th Army troops. Mongok was captured. The Chinese were mopping up Hispuo, and a British bloc was established at Meiktila, 80 miles south of Mandalay. So you can see the big, obviously thick black line. That's the battle lines, and these are obviously where troops are coming in and attacking. You can see the Chinese troops at Hispuo here, and then you can see the British troops attacking at the multiple fronts. You can see the pronged attack here. Pronged attacks can be very useful, obviously, and it probably is what helps take Mandalay. You get troops kind of around them, cut off supply lines, get troops to come in from this direction, and then straight on attack. And obviously, Meiktila, definitely a good, important ridgeline, kind of almost more important than Mandalay, which will be talked about in this picture here, but mostly because of that rail line. You can see that rail line all the way down. You can cut off Meiktila, and it cuts off anything up this way, and cuts off a lot of these Japanese troops to any supply lines that could come in. So it's really, really hurting this whole region to take this a little bit more so than this. Obviously, Mandalay is very important, but some Japs lose face in Burma, March 1945. bringing them in alive. The Japanese are not given to surrender, but these fellows were trapped in the jungle near Mandalay and nabbed before they could commit harakiri. The fall of Mandalay had great political importance, since it was considered by the Burmese as the focal point of national life. Of great military importance was the capture of Meiktila to the south. So Hirakiri, I can't describe in English, and I'm very sorry, YouTube will not allow me to. But um, it is a ritual, honorable way to take oneself out to go visit the wonderful farm in the sky. It's the best way I can describe it in the ways I'm allowed to. Um, a lot of soldiers would do it. It was seen as more honorable, and they were given they were given a lot of propaganda as to what would happen to them if they were captured. Um, if you were captured by the British and the Americans, you would have been fine. But the Japanese were told, no, they're gonna eat you. They're like cannibals. They're going to torture you. They're going to do all this stuff to you. Wasn't true. Now the Chinese, probably not the eating part, but definitely the torturing part. And you can really understand as to why. It's similar to like the Soviets and the Germans. They have a lot more animosity towards the Japanese, that being the Chinese. Um, and so they're going to see a capture of a Japanese soldier as, we're going to do horrible things to you because think about all the horrible things you've done to us. But the Americans and the British don't necessarily have the same animosity. Yeah, Americans are maybe a little upset with Pearl Harbor, but you still have to be treated like a human being more so. And so a lot of soldiers fall in line, and the Brits especially, they don't really have any real animosity towards the Japanese. It's just more of like a enemy on the opposing side kind of thing. And yeah, obviously it's war, so it's more complicated than that, but that's the general idea of it. Infantryman bag SS trooper. March 1945. Caught while fleeing. Yanks of the 104th Division, 1st Army, stand alertly over the body of an SS trooper who tried to get away from them by fleeing across a field. The platoon below, with the same fighting outfit, captured 24 SS troopers near the German town of Scherfen. Scherfen? All members of this platoon were volunteers with the 1st Army. So obviously, like I have to say, sadly, multiple times, this is just a recreation. It's not really anything to take for real, just so you're aware. Um, and yeah, catching SS troopers, they're kind of seen as more like the elite fighting force of Germany. So if you can capture them, that's a big deal. It really says a lot. And something I have noticed, and I don't know 100%, these appear to be African American individuals, um, which is really cool to see. You don't necessarily see it, and especially in this book or any of these books, you see it somewhat, but obviously this book's a little older, and by that I mean it was made pretty much right after the war, and some of them were made during the war, and obviously people's view on uh, black individuals in the United States was not very favorable, but they were just as hard of fighters, and sometimes they did things even more so to prove themselves, to prove, hey, we can do it. We are part of this, and so um, they'll volunteer and do all sorts of crazy things, and they fight hard, hard, hard. So it's really nice to see them get some recognition. The Third Army rolls across the Rhine, March 22nd, 1945. Oop, 1 second. I gotta wait for that to. There we go. A second bridgehead is forged. Jeeps and armor of the 87th Division, United States Third Army, speed across the Rhine to establish the second American bridgehead on the east bank. The German armies west of the river barrier were almost completely destroyed or driven to the east bank. By March 25th, the whole Allied front had pushed over the Rhine. Yeah, once you have one bridgehead, you're not really going to be able to stop the other bridgeheads. It's similar to really the landings during Normandy. You know, if you can't throw these off, repel the forces, you're not gonna stop them. You know, you have one bridgehead, and it allows then another bridgehead to be more easily gathered because you have troops and supplies speeding in from the one and harassing you from that direction, and then you also have the troops trying to get across the river. So once you have one, it's just not going to stop. And really, the Germans couldn't have stopped the um, crossings of the Rhine at this point. They're very kind of spread thin everywhere, and troops and supplies are very, very low. They're not stopping most of this. It's just not happening. In the wake of the infantry, March 1945. Lines across the Rhine. A cable is laid across the Rhine River at Boppard, Germany, by United States Third Army signalmen above. Armored elements are ferried across below to back up the infantry. The signalmen in the top picture are working with the assistance of the Navy LCVP. The Third Army made sensational gains east of the Rhine, racing 32 miles to the main river. Yeah, this is one of those talked about some, but often not looked at as the super important parts. A lot of times, whenever people look at the war or look at any war, really, they look at the battle. They don't necessarily look at the things that allow the battle to happen or allow the victory to happen. The supply lines, the guys behind that are doing everything they can. And getting these lines across really, really helps. Once you're able to get these armored vehicles, across the river, it really changes the battle because you have tanks, things like that. So infantry are allowed to then move up with the tanks and things like that. It really, really, really helps the lines, and you cannot understate the importance of these men. Um, Multiple times, it is a bigger topic now, but multiple times American um, logistics is talked about as winning the war, and you can really see that with the availability of supplies, resources, everything, and how quickly the United States is able to then move across obstacles that might have taken a little bit longer, not given the amazing logistics. In the Third Army, Rhine Bridgehead, March 1945. The road out. When the Third Army stormed across the Rhine on March 22nd, they were not held to their bridgehead for long, as the dead Germans sprawled along the road east of the Rhine. Testify. Two columns raced with electrifying speed into the interior of Germany, reaching the main river and Frankfurt, while other columns joined the First Army near Gießen. Gießen? Yeah, you can see obviously all of these props. Yep, these are props. All along the lines. The Germans try to put up a fight, but like I've said before, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, and they really don't have the supplies or the manpower to really stop any of this, and it's just leading to more and more men dying, kind of senselessly at this point. Germany's throwing literally everything, and you'll especially see that when we get to the defense of Berlin. You have literally men from 10 to like 70 out on the battlefield trying to defend Berlin from the Soviets, and it's like at that, when you get into that point, it's like it's almost time to give up. Actually, it is time to give up. You should not be even getting to that point. You should have given up long ago. But Germany just refuses to give up, and it just leads to so many casualties that just didn't need to happen. Whole generations wiped out. And was it worth it? No, it really wasn't. But that's going to do it for this video. If you liked the video, leave a like. If there's anything I can improve on, please leave a comment. I always appreciate comments. It really helps with the videos. And if you can, please subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Thank you.